Thank you. And I just have a quick question. Okay, so I still speak for 30 minutes? 29.55. Okay. I'm Shannon. I'm an alcoholic. Shannon. Oh my God, so many good things are running through my head. Just like, oh God, Kenny is here. Oh, it's like there's so much Kenny, and like it's funny because people come up to me and they say, "Well, I wish, like the people that didn't get to meet my husband, they say, I wish I could have met him. I've heard a lot about him, but I say, you're meeting him through me because, and the people that he's come in contact with because he's, just got to share his heart, and it's oh God, it's such an honor. There's so many people here that I know, and I feel like feel like I'm just I feel home, like I'm at home. Um, my home group is Magnolia Speaker Meeting, as you probably gathered. Uh, there'll be a lot of Kenny here. Sorry. I won't apologize for that. We used to. I just turned 29 years sober on the. Thank you. My sobriety date is 6996. That's the 9th of June. Kenny's was the 8th. Mine was the 9th. AA's is the 10th. So we've always got to celebrate this together. And it was a little bit different because he passed away. My husband was sober. He would have been sober 36 years. He passed away a year ago, just over a year ago in May. And so we always celebrated our birthdays together, and it was always a big deal for us to be together on that day. And it hit me harder than it did his death day, like this time in our that we'd always share. Because there was so much gratitude that came with that. It was just like it's the opposite of like the sorrow or the sadness. It's like this gratitude. And I would never be, and I'm just, and I'll move on to my deal, but I'll just say that, I'm not sad about his passing. I'm happy that I get to, that I had the privilege of getting to be with him for all those years. And he taught me well. If anybody says, who's your sponsor? I'm like, Kenny's my sponsor. Yeah, it's my husband. Whatever. It's like we used to mess around and sign the sign-in sheet. Like, he'd say me and I'd say him, just to mess with people and see if they actually looked at the sign-in sheet, and they don't. No one ever said anything, so that's okay. And it's so nice to see you here, Lara. We get to share the love and family together, and get to walk through a lot of stuff together. So I'm really glad you're here. So with Katie talking about the St. Francis prayer, I've got to say, okay, so there's lots of like things that come to you, like if you have like these intuitive thoughts or these wow, these God moments. And when we were in the backyard during COVID, we were doing social distancing, right? We were 6 feet apart. Yeah, no, in the bubble. We were trying to, I have to say, we were trying to learn the St. Francis prayer. And I don't know if my brain just is like, I'm not like, I haven't been to school in a long time. So it doesn't learn that well. And so here we are, like studying, I'm like trying to learn. I'm going to I said, okay, let's learn this prayer together. Let's just do it, right? Because I've been sober so long, I should know it by heart. And then, we did it a couple times. Like I remembered it a couple times, but then I finally came up with the idea. I'm like, you know why I can't remember that prayer? Because it's St. Francis' prayer. It's not my prayer. I've got to come up with my own prayers. I've got to have my own experience. I've got to like nobody can do this for me. So I had that idea, and I told her that. I go, it's not my prayer. Yeah, another pearl. Yeah, you guys. Okay. Anyway, so I'm an alcoholic. I developed the phenomenon of craving once I drink some. That's the. I want to welcome you if you're new. If you're just like maybe discovering whether you're an alcoholic or not. If what makes us an alcoholic, what makes me an alcoholic is if I develop the phenomenon of craving, once I put some in and I have the mind that tells me it's going to be different this time. And I, all the time I used to go to the bars and I would be like, yeah, I'm going to just have a couple drinks and I'm going to go home. And that, most of the time that didn't work. And after a while, I actually didn't even have that idea that it was going to be different this time. I would just go ahead and bring my sunglasses with me because I would know that I wasn't going to make it home. So that's supposed to be funny and awful at the same time, you guys. Yeah. I used to tell stories, from the podium, and I'd have Kenny like plug his ears because I'd be like, yeah, well, anyway. um, yeah, so I got here not on a roll. I was raised by my dad. He was an alcoholic. The first time somebody offered me something, I said yes. That was at 12 and a half. I'd said yes. Next time I said yes again. And, it went on from there. It just like I would, I did all the other stuff. I know this is Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's part of my story. Like having a mom and dad, I smoked pot, I did the drugs, the so I remember, asking Kenny, like there was like all the green crosses everywhere, right? When those came out, like about 8 years ago. Remember when they just flooded us with green crosses? And I love weed. Like I bong before I take a shower. Like that's me before I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. But I remember seeing all those green crosses around, and I'm okay with the booze thing. I've stopped. I got that under control. I got that under control. Had the awakening, so it's been removed, I should say. But I saw those, and I asked Kenny. I said, if I was to smoke pot, would my spirit go to sleep? And he said, no, your spirit will go to sleep first, then you'd smoke pot. And I'm just like, oh man, that hurts. Like that hurts to think about my spirit going to sleep, because that's what I found here. My spirit has been awakened from as a result of the steps. And I can't even believe that happened. I came here. I didn't even come here to stop drinking. Okay. My mom prayed for me to hit my bottom. I'm like, okay, my mom got sober a couple of years before me, and she was here in Seattle, and I'm in California, and my mom's sitting there praying, and she tells me she has friends like in her home group praying for me to hit my bottom too. And I'm like, please don't do that. That sounds like it's going to hurt. Like skid marks. Right. But I'm just like, oh man. And so, and she got sober at 55 and I was only 35. And I'm just like, I think I got another 20 years of drinking. And, it's so weird because the perfect storm happened. I mean, it was like it was 95, 94, 95. The Northridge earthquake hit. I lost my job and my boyfriend broke up with me. It was like all these things had to happen. Like if one of them would have still been in place, like if I would have had the boyfriend or the job was still working for me, or if I had my house. I mean, there was yellow tape around my house. I mean, it was like, the fireplace came down. I mean, it was destroyed. There was like, that was a real thing, that Northridge quake. But it was like, I don't know if it takes an earthquake to get me sober, but that's kind of what happened. But all those things and I guess those prayers worked, because that was my mom and her posse down there at that morning meeting. Spiritual Tom, we call him. He's actually, I heard that he was in the hospital, and he's one of these guys that's a prime example of Alcoholics Anonymous. He helps all these people, and he's always a primary guy in the home group. I remember when I first got to Edmonds, like when I first got here, I just did what they said. Like my mom, I moved up here with my mommy at 35 years old, moved into her house. There was books on my bed every day. Oh, Adult Children of Alcoholics. Here's your AA book. Here's Emmett Fox. Here's, I was like, okay, living sober, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I never went to treatment. I moved in with my mom, who was Miss AA, so like, but, Spiritual Tom was there at the Edmonds group. And I remember, I don't know, I'm kind of bossy. They tell me I'm bossy, but I go into the home group, and we've got the home group meeting. I join Edmonds, and like Tom would just let me go. He would just like we're supposed to have a group conscience, but he'd just go, oh, just let Shannon go, man. She wants to like run the show, and so like I would get to just put on the events with him and do all the stuff. And there was no vote. There was no group conscience. They just like, we would just come up with stuff and just make it happen. But that, since then I've been kind of, I don't know. I've joined other home groups, and that was my home group for 10 years, so I stuck with it. But I've joined other home groups where like I got in trouble for not following the group conscience, which is a really important thing. God, and like the it's important. But I wasn't raised like that originally, so kind of got in with wild people over there at Edmonds. But it was so much fun. My mom, she gave me my sponsor. She just said, I surrendered on the way up here. I I came up to I came up to Seattle in my Honda, you know, with my sister, and I packed a few things with me, and like I remember I remember we stopped off halfway, and my sister and I, we poured, because she hit her bottom too. I mean, she was like, she was peeling off scabs, and she gave away her car, so she had a bad meth problem, and we stopped in Yreka, whatever that is, halfway up here, and I remember we had a drink, and I remember we both didn't finish our drink. I remember we had some really bad weed. We didn't even smoke because it doesn't get, like that homegrown stuff. We just kind of like, it was weird. It was like a surrender time. It was so weird that, we came up here and, moved in with my mom and got to get sober. But, but, um, it was a surrender. My mom said, Penny's going to be your sponsor. And I was like, okay, because I didn't, I was like just in that okay mode. I wasn't planning on getting sober, but so I worked the steps with Penny. It was back in that day, we did this format called, it was a weekend deal. We worked the steps together. I got to make amends, and to a bunch of people. I just did whatever she said. I believe it. I've done a lot of workshops and done a lot of AA. All this. I've taken a lot of people through the book, and I've been through a lot of workshops, and I've been taken through the book several times slow. But it was good for what it was at the time. I needed that quickly. And so I'm really glad that I got to do the steps in a weekend. And if you can hustle if you want, but it's like it's a different experience. But anyway, so today I get to practice the being in the present moment. I was driving in the car, I don't know, it was about a month ago, and I just said out loud, there's no place I'd rather be. And it's like I've come to the place where there's no place I'd rather be. There's no place I'd rather be than right here, all the time. It's amazing because in my life I've wanted to be someplace else so much. I just wanted to get there. I mean, we're on a trip that it's going to be 5 hours until we get there, and I usually want to get home to my dog, but I actually just want to be there. And I wanted to be there, and I keep wanting to just be here and to live in this present time, in this present moment. Oh my God, it's such a gift. I feel like it's heaven. It's amazing. The drink obsession has been removed, and it feels like heaven to actually be in this experience. I want to, and nice, John. Usually I thank the committee for asking me, but they didn't ask me. I'm actually a sub today, so it's okay. I love filling in. That way I don't have to have the stomach any earlier than completely necessary. I'm the speaker coordinator over at Magnolia, and guess what? We're booked out till October. So those poor people that know they have to speak in October. Sorry about that. Oh God, it's like. But so, Kenny passed away a year ago, and I look through his stuff, and as I dig, through his writings, he wrote spiritual books, and studied all this wild stuff. He went deep in the Native American studies, and he's got this wild stuff, and it's almost like this. His writings on it is like a beautiful mind. It's amazing, like all of his notes and the keys that he would write for the stuff. But as I go through these notes, I find things like, like a prayer, like that or a poem he wrote for me, like it's dated, it's 7 years ago. He never presented it to me. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, it's such a sweet thing. And then like, I dig through some more notes, and I see this picture of an hourglass, and that's a guy that would meditate for an hour a day. Like, I saw him miss maybe 2 times. He was the real deal, maybe a couple of times in the last 5 years of doing an hour every day. And I know why, because he's really squirrely. He needed it. But believe me, he didn't drink coffee, and he didn't like to drive because he couldn't do either of those. Okay. Talk about ending up on the other side of the cones. No, bad driver. But I saw this. There was this little picture, this diagram that he drew of the hourglass, and it shows the present in that moment where the sand is coming through, and the past up here where the sand was, and the future down here. And he put the future, the present, the past. And again, like the kind of the lessons that I'm learning today, like I love him more today than I did yesterday. Like, I'm getting deeper. I'm more in love with a person that has passed away than when he was physically here. That's amazing. That's like, this is felt like the fellowship of the Spirit. The Spirit is so big and so vast that, I'm in awe. And today is the solstice. Like, I looked it up, like what it means. There's all kinds of, you wouldn't believe it. I'm not a hippie, okay? But I know hippies, but and I know I did not go to the parade today. And did you? Oh my God, I'm not about. I heard about somebody, it's a naked parade, right? And my friend one time said his sister borrowed his bike to be in the parade, and I'm just like, there's something not right about that. Yeah, ew. But anyway, no, but the solstice is like about abundance and this transformation and the new, illuminating all the new stuff. Look it up, chat GPT it, because you're not going to believe what, your kind of prayers that you could be prompted to say today. And that's what, it prompted me. I want to share it, but I'm not going to read it. But, love chat GPT. It's amazing because it's way easier than going down some other rabbit hole. But, the drinking session has been removed. I get to work with others. I get to be a part of something. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a purpose. I get to work with people. I get to tap into source where I don't know how I come up with something. People tell me I said things that I have no idea that I said, because it's like, really? Because it's not of me a lot of times. It's everything I've learned here. I get to work with others and see their awakening. And I can tell you, just like Katie talked about the promises, when I got here, they said, oh, get a God box, and write down 10 things that you want. And I'll tell you, the list was pretty superficial. A husband, a Mercedes, a dark tan, like things like just lame, all this stuff. But I never knew that I really wanted peace of mind, calmness, to be more ladylike. I didn't even know that. Like when I pray and I write, I do my daily meditation. It's only 20 minutes, but it's there. But when I get to get clear and then do the writing afterwards, I write from God. And, some days I write from Kenny, and God says the nicest things to me. So does Kenny. Like I would never be that nice to me. I'm so like, I feel so connected to be able to have those conversations and to be able to hear that stuff today because, of myself, I'll beat myself up. I'll say all kinds of stuff like you're not good enough. All the stuff that, is defaulted in me from back when I was a kid. My dad, he was an alcoholic too. And I always, he was this guy that would pipe dream guy, right? He raised me. He was, a lot of times he didn't come home. I would call the bars looking for him. When I was a little kid, I would, my parents got divorced when I was like, I don't know, 7, 10, something like, I don't even know. But I knew all the phone numbers of all the local bars, the Web, the Ramp, the Paper Doll, all the bars, and and here I am, a little kid looking for my dad, right? And every single inventory I ever wrote had my dad on it for years and years. I'm 29 years sober now, but every time, because when I have a sponsee write, I write too. And every time, like it got shorter and shorter, my inventories, but my dad was always on there. And I got to, go with my dad. I'd go and pick him up in Arizona once a year. I'd go pick up my dad, go rent a car, take him someplace, and go do a little road trip with him. And um, he passed away about 4 or 5 years, maybe. I don't even know what year it is anymore. People tell, like, I go to sign a contract and they're like, it's February 3rd. I'm like, what day is it? February 3rd. Keep going. What year is it? Don't leave me hanging. Like, I don't know what year it is. No. But anyway, he passed away a few years ago. But, I got to do this road trip with him. And he was this pipe dream guy. And even on this road trip, he was saying this stuff to me. He was saying, yeah, I'm going to fix my car. I'm going to get it together. We're going to take it to Pebble Beach. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And my whole life, he'd been telling me that stuff. He'd been just laying it all out for me, what's going to happen and all the things he was going to do. And I would listen to all of his, I don't even know the definitions of these words, but he would I won't even say because I won't dishonor him like that. But he would say, I just would go, ugh, And we got to Dana Point a couple of years ago, and I remember, seeing him like all old and little and bony in his underwear. He changed out of his clothes, and his underwear, his BVDs just kind of hanging on him. And I just remember thinking, God, he's a child of God, and I got to just see my dad as, as God sees him and who he is. Like he's, perhaps they're spiritually sick like ourselves. Like I don't claim to be all healed or well or be able to recognize somebody else's sickness, but I got to see, um, God, that he was doing his best, and all those times left with no food and all that stuff. Yeah, it's kind of left. It's in here, that lack, but uh, you know I get to have that lifted, and it's illuminated for me in the way that I got to forgive him. It all washed away. It's so weird, and I just want to encourage you, if you're new and you haven't written inventory yet, get to it. Get to the place where you can be. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll just tell you, for me, my experience is that it was, thank God, when he died, I didn't have to have any kind of animosity. Like, I just love him the most. Like, it's so great to have that. Kenny and I were paying all of his bills at the end there, like he would, this guy, I can find this. This guy, he's great though. You're gonna love this. He's such a stoner, right? My dad, the stoner. He would he got $700 a month from his social security. He was operating on nothing else, and he just had all this stuff. He had his cars and all this stuff, but didn't have any other income. So Kenny and I were paying all of his bills. And I'll tell you, man, he'd get that check in the mail, man. He slammed that $700 before like the day he'd get it. And go buy a bunch of weed, like he would go ahead and make sure his head was okay first. And I'd be like, God dang it. And he complained about me shutting off his Discovery Channel or something like that. I'm like, Dad, it's like, how much is that? Like, how much? But I got to come to a place of forgiveness. And I want you to I just want to tell you that, thank God I can live with that. And I don't live in resentment anymore. And these steps have been able to relieve me of that. I got to, I always wanted kids, and we couldn't have kids, and I got to participate in raising Jessica, which was an honor, and I got to have a relationship with Lara, and her and I got along really well during the time that we got to spend, and throughout being a part of that. Like, I always wanted to be a mom, and I got to have that privilege. And then I still wanted I still wanted a baby, and I was like, I was praying, oh man, I always prayed. And then like our friend Darlene, who ended up, asking us if we would take her son if anything ever happened to her. And we never thought really anything would ever happen to her, but she did have HIV, and she got really sick, and she asked if we'd take Jake. And so, of course, we, I don't know, we just said yes. And it was like the most amazing experience, because here I go, my prayers were answered. I got this 200-pound bouncing baby boy. It was great, So I got to be a part of. I got to raise kids, and I feel like the people that I get to work with, these women that I get to work with, I feel like I have these relationships with these young people, that have opened up my heart. I get to like sponsor women who are exactly Jessica's age, so I get to see like her perspective from somebody that like I would never be able to have that kind of insight on a different perspective. I get to be a part of, like, the one Jake one time on the Facebook, he friend requested me as his mom. I know. I cried and said, accept. Like, oh God, thank you. The things I've got, the gifts I've got to to accept and to be a part of all, being here have been just amazing. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity, and I'm so grateful to see the people that I know so well for so long, and for you to be here tonight. And we have a lot of relationships that are really, really important. And if you're new, these are the kind of relationships that are withstanding. They're long, and they're rich, and they're deep, and they're available here. And I wasn't getting that on the bar stool. So thank you for allowing me to share.